Arnold, assuming universalism is true, your theory, where there is one subject of experience underlying all conscious beings, what would be the implication for selves or the nature of the self? Famously, Buddhism rejects the self but maintains the person. There is no self, but there are persons in a fairly sophisticated metaphysics. So under universalism, what are the implications for selves?
Well, if in particular you're thinking about the Buddhist use of the term in expressing the view you just gave us, there universalism would disagree, because universalism there clearly what's meant by self is the subject of self-interest. That which is present in the world as a subject.
Yes.
And according to that Buddhist view, it only exists in a moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, of course, universalism is violently opposed to that.
Okay.
To
All
the
right.
other
So
extreme.
yeah, but so, all right. So we universalism rejects the Buddhist momentary sequence of events that there's no self, but there's these momentary sequence of events, sometimes the totality of which they would call a person, but not a self. We don't need to do that. But so what then is the concept of self because and universalism? Because many philosophers, just from Hume onward, have said that there is no self. The self is an illusion, a binding together of perceptions, whether it's Hume or Dan Dennett or who else. Many people have said that the self is a trick of the brain that maybe has some evolutionary benefit, that we think of ourselves as a coherent thing which protects us and enables us to self-preserve and reproduce or whatever. And so, but the self in reality doesn't exist. And so, how does universalism
Okay.
articulate with that kind of self?
Okay. If what they mean is something that is opposed to universalism, uh, that I'm not there in all conscious things, and of course, it it has relevance for universalism, and universalism rejects it. I know I'm here now. That's my evidence, and it would be incredibly improbable for me to be here on any such view, even if the wrong sperm cells had made it to the eggs. So, um, uh, if if it means something different, then I think it might in many of these cases. If it means some kind of, it's thinking about a mental entity that carries on thought and so on. So it's a kind of specific theory about how consciousness develops and exists, right? Then it's one of these many, many things that are irrelevant to universalism. Universalism is saying that any bit of immediacy, whatever you want, however you want to characterize the context in which it's occurring, right? It's mine. The experience is mine because of the immediacy. Universalism isn't telling you how coherent the thoughts are, or it's not interested in that. So if self is meant, so it's a bit like the sort of thing I would also say about person. I mean, there's some developed views about persons that are irrelevant in that way to universalism. Same with self when it's used to designate something more psychological, than metaphysical.
But those who would reject the notion of self, modern philosophers, Dan Dennett is a prototypical example, and that which is an artificial, a construct of the brain, a different competition in the brain for how we feel, whatever it is, to have consciousness emerge, and then a conception of self for various evolutionary reasons. Um, there what is foundational to that idea is that everything is completely physical in the brain, and that there is no special immediacy of experience that is similar to other kinds of selves. Each illusionary self is the product of each physical entity, whether it's a brain or it could be something less complicated. But that's what it means. So, by the very nature of their argument against the self, it would be an argument against that that every expression of first person immediacy is mine. It would reject that
Okay,
immediately.
okay. Look, I don't see how it can say that. That you could have an eliminative materialism that says this thing you're talking about, consciousness with immediacy, with first person character, doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay, and I'd say good luck to you. Then, yeah, fine. But if instead it's more like there isn't one coherent thing involved in this generation of experience, but there is experience with immediacy, then it's looking to me a bit like Buddhism, only not quite so. I mean, maybe they're not talking about moments, right? So they're talking about an assemblage of experience that
Yes.
doesn't belong to one thing. It's not brought together. I don't think experience belongs to one thing because it's brought together. Or put it this way, sure, there are experiencing things. And whatever these people are saying or their opponents are saying, there may be experiences cohering in them and so on. But universalism is simply saying if there's a dollop of experience anywhere that has in it immediacy, a first person character, then it's mine, and for that reason only. So unless they can somehow get rid of there being any immediacy in existence,
But
reality.
they would have the immediacy, each of the independent immediacies being completely independent, having
Yeah, they can be as
no
independent as they like. You can split the brain, and the hemispheres are independent. Still you in both because of the immediacy. Right? I'm not saying things are cohering together. I'm not saying they're integrated. In fact, I'm saying that's all irrelevant to whether it's me. Whether it's me is just in that quality of immediacy of first person. The pain's hurting.
and that
They don't think they're pains.
yeah, but they don't think that they don't think that each pain is everybody's pain. They think each
No,
pain
of course they don't.
is
Yeah,
isolated.
of course they don't. And they think what matters is whether it coheres together with other things or not. Forget that. Brain bisection, it's mine on both sides. The pains are mine on both
Yeah,
sides
yeah.
because they're immediate, first person. It being a pain on one side is no different from it being a pain on the other side that I experience. I'm equally in both. So if you think that a self is all falling apart, it's still all mine. All the parts are equally mine.
And
there's
if
no
it is,
immediacy.
and for those who argue that there is a coherent self, that's fine with you too.
Yeah,
Either way, either way.
yeah. If they mean, like a psychological self or something, if they're talking about how the experience is in one, organism, fine. But don't confuse that with what we're thinking about in personal identity. Because personal identity is like this, right? Here you are, what we're going to call a person. 5 minutes from now, there'll be something else that we call a person. Will its pain be yours so that you have a self-interest in it? Or will it be someone else's so that you have merely sympathy for it?
Yeah, that's
You,
a good
you
way to
can't
put
have sympathy for your own pains,
it.
right? It's just logical
Yeah.
that you can't. And I'm saying you can't have sympathy for any pains if you're thinking truly about them, and you see that they're yours. Sympathy doesn't have a part in it, right? So that question, which is the center of the debate in philosophy over personal identity, right? Are the pains mine if the psychological process is the same, or are they mine if the thing remains the same, even though psychological process changes, right? That's the debate, right? And that's what I'm interested in. Are the pains mine? And all the pains are mine with their immediacy, because that's all that's involved in any experience being mine. And then there are other issues of what minds are like, and whether they cohere a lot or they don't.
But you don't care.
It doesn't say anything about that. That's all in that in the stuff that's incidental. The incidental detail, all of that for universalism.